Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and a very warm and sunny spring-like welcome to the latest episode. It's Friday, the 20th of March, 2026. I know I always sound a little bit hesitant when I'm saying the date, and that's because I'm never 100% sure exactly what it is. And I'm joining you this evening by the skin of my teeth. It's been a pretty crazy few days, and I honestly think I'm going to be late for my own funeral at the rate I'm going. So I managed to actually have a flat tire yesterday, which was absolutely crazy. And it feels like months ago, but it literally was yesterday lunchtime. And I just left a job and I was in the middle of absolutely nowhere on a really long road. And I just left this job and I was listening to music and it was all feeling very summery and spring-like. And I was actually feeling, and this will tell you why I went wrong, like I'd actually got everything under control in my life. And I was leaving one very organized thing and going off to another very organized thing. And the whole day was planned out to the very second. And then all of a sudden there was all this sort of rumbling, and my car is normally rumbling, so I didn't actually take too much notice. And then I assumed I must have driven over a branch and got something stuck on the underneath of the car. And then, of course, you hear that kind of flump, 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 flump sound, and then you know something's horrible gone wrong. So anyway, turns out I was stopped in what the AA call a live lane, which is where you can't actually pull over to the side because I couldn't really drive any further on the tyre. So I was classed as a priority customer, and a very nice AA man came out to rescue me. Took him an hour, which was fine, although I was stuck in quite an isolated spot, but it was very beautiful. And I was sitting down on a tree stump admiring what I think actually is the first of the bluebells. So I've seen some of those. That was nice. And I went through my to-do list and ticked off as many things as I possibly could. And then the AA guy rang, which was great, to say he was a few minutes away. And while I waited, could I please find my will locking nut? And I think there's few expressions in the world that create as much panic and dread in my voice as can you find your will locking nut, love? Because I never know where the thing is. So I had to ransack the back of the car, and it had all my work stuff in, tools, 1-ton bags, sacks, you name it, had absolutely everything in, even had a pair of step ladders in there as well. So I had to take the back of my car apart, and then I found it, and then it turned out he didn't need it anyway. So he got me on the road again, and that was fine. And then I'm going to go and buy 2 new front tyres tomorrow because it turns out the other one was not in a very good condition as well. So that was a bit of a disaster and obviously a bit of a financial hit tomorrow, but it's got to be done. Tyres are very important. Now, on the plot, the weeding has been continuing this week, and I have actually managed to clear a whole space for my climbing roses, which has been on the to-do list for absolutely ages. Got that sorted, and I think I'm actually going to have to dig a bit of a trench because the nettles seem to have gone under the duck house, and then, of course, they just come all the way back out again. And I also found a patch of bindweed, which is very, very frustrating because I really do not want that going into the climbing roses because that will just be a never-ending nightmare. So I think I'm actually going to end up digging the entire bed over very, very slowly and very carefully, which is not something I want to do. I normally try for a no dig policy and leave the soil as undisturbed as possible. But I think in the case of having both nettles and then a patch of bindweed, it would be time well spent to do that. Now, in the greenhouse, the seedlings are doing absolutely great guns, and my Panicum Frosted Explosion, which is the first time I've grown this one, has all germinated. So that's great. So it's literally like hopscotch in the greenhouse. Anything that's germinated on the heat mats gets moved onto a shelf without the heat mat, and then the next tray is put on the heat mat ready to go. And I am managing to keep the watering of these tiny little seed blocks under control, which is fine. But it has obviously been quite warm in the greenhouse, but I still have a missing window pane, a glass pane in the greenhouse. I still have not managed to find that missing pane, and I have not got around to ordering one. So it doesn't actually get as hot in there as it would if it had all of the panes going on. So that is all under control. and I've got more seeds to sow either over the weekend or early part of next week. Now, I spent this morning having a brilliant meeting with my wedding and event florist. Now, she is based in my town, and she has just moved into a studio, which was absolutely stunning. And I proper had studio envy because, as you know, I have Kylie's room, which is a stable, and it's not very bright and airy. And I mean, it's lovely, don't get me wrong. And I'm very, very lucky to have it. But I saw Joe's studio this morning and I was like, I want a studio. And it's a barn with beautiful, beautiful high ceilings and wooden beams in there and a proper solid floor. It's absolutely gorgeous. So very, very envious about that. And it was lovely to see her and have a catch up. We had so much to talk about. I could have spent the entire there, to be honest. We were talking about the year coming up and what's going on with her weddings and events and the types of bookings she's got, the trends that she's seeing. And we also talked about plans that I have got for doing some kind of collaboration with her for British Flowers Week, which is in June. And I have never been organised enough to do anything for that. Mind you, I say that. There was only last year that I was growing and I definitely wasn't ready then, but I'm going to be organised for this year. So I'm thinking about it now. So we're going to do some collaborations with my flowers and her design skills and put something out every day on Instagram or on our websites or something, like these little collaborations. And she has some fantastic ideas because she's a very, very creative lady. So that is brilliant. Now, the most exciting news actually is that she has agreed to be a guest on the podcast. Now, she's she's going to be absolutely wonderful because she's a very, very experienced florist and she does all sorts of different styles and different levels, but she does some really, really high class weddings in some very, very prestigious local, like country house hotels that we have around here, some really, really famous ones. And she's amazing. So I thought this would be really helpful for you. And I know I've got loads of questions, but I kind of pick her brains whenever I see her. But I thought if I'm going to have her on the podcast, it's a great opportunity for you if you are thinking about selling to florists in the future, or you're trying to break into it now and you're just wondering what it is like. So if you've got questions about maybe what sort of vase life florists are looking for, or what their most useful or most popular flower is, or what foliage they really, really love, or what things they want but they find it difficult to get hold of, or what sort of stem lengths they're looking for, or their preferred stage of harvest, their most popular colours, how they choose their flowers, what they would love from growers, what they don't want from growers, how they like to order, how they like to receive their flowers, like in the packaging or however. And I guess the question that we all want to ask florists is what would make you switch to buying from me? So I'm going to do this in a few weeks' time. So I would love you to send me a question, please, that I can put to Jo, and she will answer it on the podcast. I think that would be really amazing. So please do that. You can send me a DM on Instagram, or you can send me an email. That's from my website, which is given in the show notes. So I look forward to hearing from you. Now, the other thing that I've been doing this week that has taken up masses of time and meant I've not been going to bed till about 2:00 in the morning. And that is because I have decided to make a Shopify store. So I've been thinking about... Also, I should tell you, just digressing slightly, I'm trying to avoid saying the word so, because when I listen back to my episodes to make sure the audio doesn't conk out halfway through, I can't believe the number of times I say so. And for me, it just seems like the perfect linking word to go from one sentence to another. But I really overuse it. So I apologize for that. And I'm going to try and find either an alternative or just cut it out completely. Anyway, I've been working on this Shopify store. And I've been thinking since last year, actually, about how I can improve the buying process and make me a much, much easier person to buy from. So you'll know that I made the website over Christmas and I was quite proud of that. But I was looking at it a few weeks ago, and the page about, florists and how you can contact me and stuff. And it still did not seem quick and easy and simple enough, which is what I'm aiming for this year. It was all like, send me a DM or give me a call or drop me an email. And I just thought, well, that's no good. And the second thing I wanted to get rid of was availability lists, because when I was just selling to my wedding event florist when I first started last year, it was very easy because I could send her a list of what I had available and she would tell me what she wanted. And also, because I'd had a meeting with her at the back end of 2024 and she'd shared her mood boards with me, I already knew what she was going to be looking for in 2025. So I just either grew exactly what she wanted and hoped that it was ready on time. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. But because I had these mood boards, like, I could cater for the weddings. So I wasn't ready for ad hoc things that just came up, like a bouquet this weekend or funeral flowers or anything like that. I was really just focusing on the weddings. But when I started to get other florists on board, and I obviously needed to tell them what I had available, I found it extremely difficult to work out how you send an availability list out to multiple people and how you avoid overselling the same flowers. And I really started to get worried about this towards the end of last year. And I thought there's got to be a better way of doing it, because what happens if a new florist that I've never worked with before, she replies to my availability list and she takes like all of a particular product that I think somebody else would really want, or that I would want to maybe hold back for my primary client, which is like the main client that I had last year, my wedding and event florist. How does it all work out? And I could see myself getting into a right mess. And somehow I managed it at the end of 2025. It was fine. But because I'm trying to do things in a more professional, streamlined, efficient way this year, I thought I really want to get away from these availability lists. I just don't like it, because I just think it's not selling enough. It's like if my local restaurant just sent me their menu every week and said, this is what we've got. I'd be like, well, so what? What do you want me to do? I know what you sell, and you're not really selling it to me by just sending me an availability list. And I should also say, in brackets, I'm not knocking anybody that does availability lists. It's just I struggled with them and wanted to find a different way. I wanted to find something that was also that my florists could purchase from me at any time they wanted. And that was actually brought home to me when I was talking to my wedding and event florist this morning. And she said to me something like, I very nearly ordered from you on a Sunday evening. She said, but I didn't want to text you on a Sunday evening. And I thought, okay, well, we definitely need to get around that situation, because I'm in the business of selling stuff. If you want to buy something, you message me whenever you want. I really don't mind, because this is my whole thing. Like, I'm always thinking about flowers. So it's not a problem. But there was that thought that came into her head that she felt like she wouldn't disturb me, which I totally understand, because I hate messaging people 99% of the time for fear I'm going to disturb them doing something. Anyway, so I had this idea, what could I do? And I decided a Shopify store was the way that I wanted to go. So I've done all this research into it, and I've actually gone ahead and built one. So it is live at the moment, but it is password protected so that it's just me messing around inside it. And what I've done is I've listed all of the flowers and the foliage that I will have for sale this year. So they go on as like individual products, and you put a photo, a description, a price, and then you can add things like tags. So you could tag it as like, this is a focal flower or a filler or an airy or a line or a spike or pink or white, whatever, as many tags as you want to. And that helps with the search when you want to go and search for something. And then you can put these products in collections as well. So I've made a couple of collections. I've got one for all the roses. I've got one for pinks. I've got one for whites, and I'll probably have a foliage collection as well. And you basically, there's just masses and masses of information. I've kept the descriptions quite short because the florists know what they're looking for. They can either tell from the photo or they can tell from the name. So they don't need a load of waffle from me about it. But I've put like a sentence or two in there. And then I'm going to do the pricing per stem because I just psychologically have an issue with this whole bunches of 5 or bunches of 10. So I thought I'm going to put everything on available per individual stem. So if the florists want to buy 3 or they want 8 or they want 24, they can have exactly what they want. It's no skin off my nose. They're going to be coming to collect them or they're going to be paying for a delivery charge so they can have whatever numbers they want. Because my florist has mentioned to me in the past that sometimes she doesn't want a whole bunch of 10. She'll end up with leftovers. And there can be issues trying to sell the leftovers because if you've used the main batch for a wedding, it means that whatever's left over is not as fresh as you would want it to be, and it's then not going to have a very good vase life if you want to try and sell it to a customer who's just going to put it on their kitchen table. You basically can't. Like if you're having stuff for wedding, it needs a different vase life for if you're having it for your kitchen table. So there's a problem there with leftovers. So by buying per stem, you get around that having leftovers to deal with. So I've been inputting all these photos and all these descriptions and making sure all the categories are right. It's been a really, really huge project. And I showed it to my florist this morning and she seemed very happy with it. And of course, the main selling point, I said to her, is that you can order whenever you like. You can order 3 o'clock in the morning if that's what you want to do. You can order while you're, watching TV or reading a book, or you're in your car stuck in traffic and you remember something. You can order anytime you like. And we're discussing the payment options, whether florists pay at the time of placing the order or whether they pay on collection. That's just something else that we just have to finesse a little bit. But in principle, she seemed very, very positive about it. It also kind of removes this difficulty about people not wanting to offend you or me not wanting to push certain products. I think my comfort level is definitely improving with the sales side of things for sure, but there can be that kind of barrier where you feel like, okay, maybe I've sold enough now, I should stop. Don't say, do you want some of this? Do you want some of this? Do you want some of this? And maybe the florist has already gone over her limit or she's bought more than she wants to. And she doesn't want to be always saying no to something. Whereas if you just leave people to buy off a website in their own time, their own space, they will buy what they want. And there's always an opportunity to add on extra bits when they come to collect. But it just kind of got over that little hurdle as well. And it just takes me out of that whole pushing a product constantly. So the website is going to do the work and I'm going to be able to focus on relationship building with the clients, which is really important, and doing the kind of more top level, the chief executive stuff, if you will. And the website is going to be like the non-chief executive, like the employee role in the business. So that's what I've been doing. So quite a bit more work still to be done on that, but I've got a couple of months before I'm ready for anything. So that's fine. And the thing about the Shopify is that you get, I think it's, at the moment, you get 3 months. The first 3 months, you pay £1 a month for the service. So that's what I've set up. So I'm only paying £1 a month for the next 3 months until I get everything up and running. And then after that, it kicks in with its proper fee thing, which is something around £25 a month, which initially I thought, oh, that's, I'll never be able to afford anything like that. And I thought, well, actually, if I sell enough stems, then it will pay for itself. And the amount of time that it's going to free me up, not having to be faffling around with all of the admin to do with the availability lists and contacting people and taking orders and fine-tuning everything. I mean, it's actually then seems very, very good value for money. So yeah, that is what I've been up to this week and part of last week as well. So I'm very, very proud of that. And when it's all up and running and it's all functioning, I just have to make the decision about whether it is open to the public or whether it always remains behind a password protection thing. I just cannot work out what the best way of doing that is. I'm inclined to just make it open and not password protected, and then people can just see the prices, because I'm so keen on greater transparency and more people being able to see what things actually look like and what the pricing is, basically. But the caveat to that is that I may not have the pricing right, and that if anybody goes on it, looks and sees and thinks, well, they either laugh at me because I'm charging too much or I'm not charging enough. And of course, my prices are going to be different to anybody else's prices because my costs of production are unique to me, etc., etc. You don't need me to explain all that. You know that by now. So we will see. I think my gut tells me to just make it open and available to anybody and just see what happens. But anyway, it's going to sit behind the password thing at the moment until I've actually got it all running and all the pictures are the same size and everything. So that's been a little bit tricky. Now, on to the fun part of the episode. It is my plant profile for Friday. And tonight I'm talking about Rudbeckia, also known as Black-Eyed Susan. Now, there are two different ones here. There's the annual one, which is also a short-lived perennial, which in the UK we treat it as an annual, and it's Rudbeckia hirta, Hirta. And the second one is Rudbeckia fulgida, which is the perennial one. And I had both of them on the plot last year. I think the hirta have not made it over the winter, but the fulgida, they have, and they are wonderful. Now, Rudbeckia came in at number 10 on my most profitable plant list just last year. And they were really, really lovely. Some of them were, I had two different ones. So some of them were from plugs that I bought years and years ago and finally put them in the ground. And then I also purchased some young plants from one of my next door neighbors, who's an absolutely ace seed grower and plant grower. He is like, he's got the magic touch. He gets everything to germinate. Everything grows beautifully. He does really, really superb plants. So I bought some from him last year, and they were also very, very lovely as well. Now, it's a plant from North America. It's kind of like one of these prairie style plants, and it's a cone flower. So it's kind of like an echinacea, if you're not familiar with it. It's got yellow or orangey petals and a lovely brown center. Gets to about 3 foot in height. And as I say, it's either a perennial or an annual. Now, they do like full sun. They're quite happy in that. They'll cope with a bit of partial shade, but I think the flowering is not quite as good. Now, it's excellent for growers because it's very easy to grow from seed. One of those perennials that you can just quite easily grow from seed yourself. It's also low risk in terms of pests and diseases. I have never had a problem with mine whatsoever. They've all been very healthy. The fulgida is hardy in the UK. It comes back every year very reliably. And unlike echinacea, which vanishes into the ether and you can't even tell where it is, the Rudbeckia leaves like a tiny little sort of basal, not a basal plate, but like a little clump of green leaves, so that you can at least tell that there is something there. They will produce branching stems, so you get multiple stems off the same plant, so very highly productive. They will keep producing after you've cut them as well, so you get a good yield per square meter. Very good season of flowering, and I find that they just last really nicely. They're a good bridge from summer into autumn. Very nice sturdy stems. May not need staking, which always saves on the labor costs. I didn't stake mine last year, and they sort of slightly flop, but not in the sense of flop as in can just completely hit the ground and collapse. They have an excellent vase life, and if you grow them from seed, very low startup cost as well. And I have found that they're just not fussy. They don't need twiddling about with. Some things just super demanding, suck up all your time. My Rudbeckia, I kind of just forgot about them. They just appear, they do their thing. They're very cheerful, very pretty, come in some great colours. Now, I would like to get some different colours this year. I've got one of this sort of, I can't even remember what variety it is, but it's just a lovely yellow, goldy yellow colour. But you can also get some bronzy ones and some burnt orange ones. And they kind of sit somewhere between a focal and a filler. I don't really see them as a focal, but I don't really see them as a filler either, because they're just so striking, architecturally attractive to look at, and the colour just really grabs you. So it's kind of somewhere in between. But the flower petals are actually very soft and a little bit wispy and delicate. So they're just really super. Downsides to them are they don't have any scent, which is, a bit of a big downside for me, because I'm all about scented flowers, and they don't have any scent. Now, there's a very, very pretty one that I would like to buy. There you are. I said so again, didn't I? That's terrible. I'm going to have to work harder on this. Sorry. There is a very pretty one called Rudbeckia subtomentosa Henry Eilers. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It is for sale with Beth Chatto in the UK, but it's currently out of stock at the moment. And the great thing about this one is it has very, very, very thin petals. It's very unusual looking, really, really quirky. So I'm going to try and get hold of a few of those, I think. As usual, the great thing about perennials is that you can split or divide them every couple of years so that you gradually increase your stock. That's assuming that you don't have a go at sowing them. I highly recommend Rudbeckia. Very, very cheerful, very happy looking plant, and very easy to look after. It's Friday. We have the weekend ahead of us. The weather forecast here in the UK is lovely. We have about 3 days more of spring, and then we've got a fortnight of rain, apparently. Not significant amounts of rain, but just a little bit every day, which is probably a great thing, because we could do with the soil, staying nice and moist. There's nothing worse than having a dry spring. So I will be very busy on the plot this weekend. As you know, I've got a long list of things to do, and I haven't got through very many of them this week. And I'll also be picking up my new tyres at the incredible time of 9 a.m. tomorrow. And when I went to book the appointment, the guy said, yeah, we've got 9 a.m. And I said, have you got anything just a little bit later? Because I'm always so busy in the mornings. And he looked at me, in that expression that just said, oh, you silly woman. He said, we'll be open from 8. And I thought, well, good for you, mate. But some of us have really busy mornings, and 9 o'clock is going to be a bit of a stretch. Anyway, they're booked in for 9, and I shall have some very snazzy new tyres. And the other thing was, he said to me, what size are they? And I just said, I have absolutely no idea. And he said, where's the car, love? And so I just pointed outside, and he just went out and found out what I needed. So he's probably put a surcharge for me being an idiot on the bill, but there we are, can't be helped. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are and whatever you're up to. And please come back and join me on Tuesday. And don't forget, if you've got a question for my wedding and event florist who's coming on the podcast in a few weeks' time, please do send it over, and I will read out your questions to her. And that should be a really awesome episode. I can't wait to do that. So that's it from me. All the very best.